Hi, I'm Gabriel Axteller. I work for Thempra Social Pedagogy. We're a social enterprise and have been working with lots of organizations across the UK and Ireland on developing relationship-centered practice and relational leadership. And we specialize particularly in something called social pedagogy, which is a relational approach to facilitating learning, well-being, and social inclusion. Um, I also teach at SETU on a module on social pedagogy, but I wanted to tell you in particular about this relational leadership course that we're offering. Um, to begin with, relational leadership is effectively about being a leader, whether you're a manager or anybody in an organization, looking at what is your own leadership quality, what do you bring to your organization, to the environment you create with the people you support as well, to really show leadership qualities. And in our understanding, being relational in that is really fundamental to being a meaningful and a valuable and a well-respected leader. So relational leadership really focuses on how can we create an environment in which relationships are paramount, in which everything we do is kind of interwoven with relationships. And that starts very much with understanding who am I as a person, as a leader, what do I bring to my job, what are my values, how do I enact my values, how does that inform my purpose, and how I go about doing my work and how do I therefore influence the people around me, hopefully in a positive and encouraging manner. So all of that is really important to leadership these days. Because leadership isn't about being a solo artist. It's not an individual sport, it's a team sport, basically. And so the more we're able to create an environment in which people are eager to collaborate, are willing to show that they're not perfect, that we might make mistakes, and that that's okay, we can learn from them, the more effective our practice can be and the organizational culture, the more joyful it is to work in a place like this. And so that's why this course focuses on relational leadership and starts very much with who are you as the participant? What are your values? And how do you bring them to your work? Effectively, our course is structured and draws very much on this idea of human learning systems. So human learning systems is a sort of paradigm for relational public service that's made a huge difference across the UK already, and it's starting to kind of be developed in Ireland as well. And it focuses very much on how can we be more human with each other? How can we create services and supports that focus on being holistic, on really focusing and emphasizing on the human being that we're supporting and what matters to them. It also recognizes that we work in complexity most often because people's lives are complex. And so therefore we need to engage as learners. We don't have all the knowledge. We don't have all the expertise. Between us, we have hopefully lots of different perspectives that enable us to learn more about the situation that somebody is in and how we can move forward. And we need to do so across systems. So we need to be really connected with other professionals, with other people in somebody's life, and work collaboratively. So that's why human learning systems is a really helpful framework for exploring relational leadership. And our course is very much structured on the human, who we are, what we bring to this work, how we can build meaningful relationships with the people around us, the learning, how can we bring people together to really engage as learners and to be really reflective and to move forward in a way that doesn't dictate practice from the outset, but actually looks at what is emerging, what are we learning as we go through a support and intervention. And the systems part in terms of how can we bring different professionals together? How can we be collaborative with the people we support? How can we focus on co-production, for instance, so that we're bringing everybody in a system together to learn with each other and to really infuse that system with relationality. So as part of that, we focus on some of the social pedagogical concepts that we found really valuable in this respect. Things like the 3 Ps of how can we be professional and personal, whilst recognizing there's some things that are private and that we're trying to keep out. things like the common third in terms of using shared activities to build relationships in which we can just be two people doing something we both enjoy and using that as a learning opportunity and as a relational opportunity. Um, and a couple of other social pedagogical concepts like the diamond model that recognizes that we need to work around people's potential. We need to see what's the richness, what's the uniqueness in them, what's that diamond, and what can we do to create an environment in which people can sparkle and shine. So all of these kinds of concepts are stuff that we'll introduce you to on the relational leadership program, and focus not just on how to use those in direct practice with the people you might support, but actually also how can you make sure that you use them across the organization, with each other, within your team. Um, the other aspects that are really important in that as well is that we, of course, draw on a whole range of different leadership theories to kind of give people a more nuanced understanding of what does leadership actually mean, how is it similar or different to management, and how can you be the leader that you are? Again, kind of recognizing your own unique potential, and the fact that you're a unique human being and that you have your own qualities that are irreplaceable. So we're not kind of trying to force frame people into particular categories of leadership, but really kind of help you be really reflective about what is your leadership, where do you show leadership, and how can you develop those qualities in your own practice. So we draw a lot as well on some of the aspects around how do we motivate people, how can we create an environment in which people draw on their own intrinsic motivation, in which people want to bring their own self, their own values, their own sense of purpose into this work. And how can that help us create an environment in which people are much less likely to burn out or to leave the job for somewhere else? Because we also recognize that, particularly in social care, this work is really difficult at times, right? This tests us to the limits, and it we need people that are really in that for the right reasons and feel like they are making a difference. They're not just battling a system that doesn't seem to want to change. So a lot of the focus in this program is also on how can we inspire each other and keep our motivation fresh so that we can keep going, particularly when times are tough. One aspect as well around that is really about how do we communicate with each other, and how can we make sure that we call people in rather than call people out? How can we make sure that we have communication that is non-violent, that is restorative when things go wrong, that is trauma-informed and shame-sensitive? So all of these are really important aspects that we cover throughout the course as well. Now, in terms of what people can get out of the course, that very much depends on their own practice context, of course. But in general, we put a lot of emphasis on just taking the time for people to really reflect on where they're at, what they're learning, what they want to progress, and creating the space throughout the course for people to think about actions they can take, commitments they can make. And the course is structured in a way so that you have a couple of weeks in between each block, so that you can go back into your organization, test things out, learn from them, come back, reflect, and develop them further. So we're trying to make sure that this course is really embedded in your own practice context to the greatest extent possible. What that has meant for people has been very different. So we've had people on this course who actually work in very, very different environments, and who felt like actually their environment wasn't relational at all. And that was kind of grating with them. And so having some strategies and a new language to put the emphasis on why is it important that we don't just jump straight into an agenda in a team meeting and don't just have supervision that is very task oriented, but actually picks up on us as real human beings and recognizes that we have head, heart, and hands, that we need to take care of each other, was something that was quite a game changer for them. And having the kind of conceptual understanding and the language to articulate why that's important kind of made a real difference to their organization. I remember one leader who is just phenomenal, who had kind of, gone through a lot of really crippling stuff based on this system of, you have your targets, you are the head of the organization, you're being made responsible for everything, even though most of those things are outside of your control. You're expected to be kind of a really top-down micromanager and stuff like that. And nearly broke him. He, went through a divorce because of that, because his job was just so all-encompassing and he had lots of stress and so forth. And for him, finding that different approach that focused much more on the humanity, on the relationships, um, and at the same time was rigorous, so that it wasn't just an airy-fairy kind of thing. Um, that was a real game changer for him that enabled him to prevent being burned out, and create an environment where he didn't have to have all the answers, where he could just go like, let's explore this together. I don't know what might be the best way. Let's try and find out. Let's learn together. Was a huge difference. And the change that that's made to his team has been really inspiring in terms of, how much he's brought out the leadership in each person in his team has been really fantastic. They have a well-being room where if you feel down, you can just go and get some support or just relax, without being judged. And he will be in that well-being room as much as any of his staff. So again, it comes back to role modeling those behaviors as well, which is incredibly powerful. So these are just some of the things that we hope people take from the course. I think the most important thing as well is that you are able to connect with lots of the other people on the course as well. And they might work in a similar context to you, they might work in a very different context to you, but there's this connection, this learning with that builds relationships. And we put a lot of emphasis on enabling participants to build relationships with each other as well. So you'll learn as much potentially from my colleagues, Charlotte and Alex, as you will from all the other course participants on it. So I hope that sounds interesting and that we'll be able to welcome you onto our next cohort. Thanks.